Hello, everyone. We'll wait just a minute or two to make sure others who are joining have an opportunity to log in, and then we'll begin the session. Okay, it looks like we have a good number of people here, so let's begin. Thank you for joining us with the National Zoning Atlas for our Metro Area Snapshot series, where we highlight metro areas as they become accessible on our national map. Today, we'll be discussing both the Raleigh and Durham metro areas of North Carolina. Although these areas are defined as two separate metropolitan areas by the Census Bureau, they are often considered one region, known locally as the Research Triangle or simply the Triangle. But given the metro area basis for all of our comparisons, we'll be presenting side-by-side statistics for both the Raleigh MSA and the Durham MSA. My name is Jeff Conkle, and with me today is zoning analyst Junbo Huang and geospatial analyst Connor Nolan. Connor, Junbo, and myself all contributed to the publishing of the Research Triangle area, and later we'll also be joined by our partner from Code with the Carolinas, who helped contribute to the zoning code compilation for this region. Today, we'll start by answering the question, what is the National Zoning Atlas? We'll then move on to sharing how we build the Atlas, how to use the Atlas, and finally dive into exploring our findings from our analysis of the Raleigh and the Durham metro areas. Please feel free to share any questions in the chat as they come to mind so we can discuss them towards the end of the presentation. So you might be wondering, what is the NZA? The National Zoning Atlas is a collaborative research project working to digitize, demystify, and democratize U.S. zoning codes. Our product is a first-of-its-kind database and interactive map that displays the regulations governing what and where people can build all across the country. Zoning impacts various aspects of society, from our built and natural environments to our health and housing. With this in mind, our goal is to make zoning more understandable for all. We can all agree zoning is often way too complicated. The State Zoning Enabling Act of 1922 was the model legislation for states to authorize local governments to zone. As a result, around 30,000 jurisdictions across the country exercise their right to zone today, making it hard to understand zoning at a large scale. Zoning language and accessibility vary, which can also complicate things. Locating codes online and in person can be challenging. This is especially true in small and rural towns with limited planning staff. If you do manage to find a code, oftentimes the text is long and filled with legal jargon that's hard to understand. The NZA responds to these challenges in three ways. First, creating a one-stop shop for zoning codes, where we collate thousands of unique codes and store them all in a single database. Second, we standardize key data points that enable apples-to-apples comparisons across jurisdictions. Lastly, the NZA makes the codes accessible to non-experts. Our easy-to-use online map helps encourage public access and can be used as a tool for public education. One famous use case comes out of Montana, where the Frontier Institute used the Montana Zoning Atlas to convince lawmakers that a spike in home values was, in part, due to overly restrictive zoning. Frontier succeeded in their campaign, and this picture shows the governor speaking after the adoption of zoning reforms, which included easing restrictions on accessory dwelling units, duplexes, and triplexes. Another partner, Housing Works Rhode Island, publishes an annual housing fact book. After releasing the Rhode Island Atlas in the fall, they incorporated zoning data into their analysis and enhanced the quality of their regional investigations. Finally, Atlas data is being used in scholarly research. An example of this includes a collaboration with Cornell Tech to investigate methods to accelerate zoning data collection and standardization using natural language processing. These are just a few of many examples of our partners using the Atlas to help influence policy, inform analysis, and conduct research. And now we'll discuss how the map is built. The data plugged into the Atlas has to be accurate to ensure it's usable by policymakers and easy for non-experts to understand. We do this by following the methodology featured in the How to Make a Zoning Atlas guide. This document contains instructions for both zoning analysts who work with the code text and geospatial analysts who work with the GIS data. The NZA leadership team regularly evaluates and updates the methodology to adopt best practices. Here's a view of the NZA editor. In every jurisdiction that has zoning, analysts work together to establish the list of zoning districts featured in both the zoning code and the zoning map. Here you can see the zoning districts that are listed for Ithaca, New York. At this stage, we identify what type of district it is, whether it's residential, mixed with residential, or non-residential, and if it's an overlay zoning district. Analysts then review over 100 different data points within each district, beginning with the treatment type, whether it's one family, two family, etc. Here are some of the fields analysts complete in the editor. You can see we track things like lot sizes, setbacks, height, parking requirements, just to name a few. Currently, we have about 1,900 jurisdictions in progress, but we've completed over 5,000 jurisdictions that are now searchable on the Atlas. And we're happy to say that the Atlas is well on its way to covering all of North Carolina. Over 300 individuals have contributed to the Atlas, reading and analyzing over 400,000 pages of zoning code. In all, published jurisdictions so far cover land that is home to more than 114 million Americans. And highlighted in pink are the Raleigh and the Durham metro areas. And now I'm going to have Connor walk you through how to use the public map.
Thank you, Jeff. Hello, I'm Connor. I'm a geospatial analyst here at the National Zoning Atlas, and I'm going to walk through how to use our interactive atlas online. And if you'd like to follow along, you can do so at zoningatlas.org/atlas. I'll go ahead and share my screen here. Alrighty. So when the atlas first opens, it will show a national view, and you can see that the areas in purple have zoning and the areas in green do not have zoning. There are some other layers such as water, wetlands, tribal lands, protected lands that I will get to in a moment. But for now, I'm going to zoom into our metro areas of interest. And as Jeff said, this webinar is about both the Raleigh-Cary Metropolitan Statistical Area, which is composed of Johnston, Franklin, and Wake counties, as well as the Durham-Chapel Hill Metropolitan Statistical Area, which is composed of Person, Orange, Durham, and Chatham counties. For the purposes of walking through the Atlas features, I'm going to zoom into Chapel Hill using the search tool on the right-hand side here. That loads. Our legend has changed on the left here to display. Oh, there we go. Our legend has changed on the left here to display zoning district types. In the light purple, we see primarily residential districts. Dark purple areas are mixed-use districts. Beige areas are non-residential districts. And gray areas are areas without zoning. I can also change the base map from plain to topography or to aerial imagery, but I'll keep it on plain. And I can toggle on and off tribal lands and protected lands. And just a quick note here about our geospatial methodology. So when we receive GIS data from a jurisdiction or we digitize a zoning map, we always remove areas that are water, tribal lands, protected lands, and rights of way. This helps to focus the atlas on areas that can actually be developed, and it also standardizes the data so that it can be compared across jurisdictions. So I can hover my mouse around Chapel Hill and get an overview of what zoning districts are here. But I'll go ahead and click into this jurisdiction, and when I select it, the jurisdiction boundary becomes visible. I can also do this using the Zoom to filter on the bottom left-hand side. But for now, I'm going to use the Show Me Where People Can Build filter. This will change the map to display only districts where certain types of housing can be built as of right. For example, I'll switch on the single family homes filter here, and now the map is displaying only zoning districts where you can build a single family home as of right. On the bottom right of the screen, there's a little, if we have a jurisdiction selected, then there will be this results card, which shows filtered results. So in Chapel Hill, we can see that in 92% of zoned acres, we can build a single family home as of right. Just a note, although the entire map is updating, this card is only going to display information for Chapel Hill, and it does include extraterritorial jurisdiction. I can also, keeping the same filter, move around the map and select a different jurisdiction, for example, the city of Durham. And we can see in the city of Durham that in 57% of zoned acres, you can build a single family home as of right. But I will go back to Chapel Hill and switch our filter from single family homes to apartments with 4 or more units. Our map updates, and we can see that in 24% of Chapel Hill, you can build an apartment with 4 or more units as of right. Now say I want to learn more about one of these districts I'm seeing. I can click on one from the map, for example, OI3. When I click on it, a new card will show up on the right, and it will give me a brief overview of the uses allowed there. I can zoom to the extent of the district using the zoom button, or I can click show me more details to get an in-depth view of the data that we have here. Another way to learn more about the districts that we have filtered is to to scroll down, and it will display the filtered districts for the jurisdiction. Let's see, next, I'll go ahead and show the advanced filters section. So if I want to know within this area where you can build a 4+ family building as of right, where I can also build an accessory dwelling unit as of right, I can filter for that. Say I want to get real specific and make sure that there are no occupancy restrictions. I can also filter for that. And our results tab shows us that in 23% of Chapel Hill, this is allowed as of right. Now, lastly, I'm going to reset the filters. I'm going to deselect everything on the screen and just zoom out to more of our metro area here to demonstrate how this tool can be used to generate some broad visual comparisons. So I will use the Show Me Where People Can Build filter again. And we're seeing all zoned land right now. However, I can search for single family homes to update the map with that. And I'll go ahead and switch to apartments with 4 or more units. The map changes, and I found it interesting that in much of unincorporated Wake County, you can build an apartment with 4 or more units as of right. I also wanted to show quickly that I can add not only areas where you can build this as of right, but where you can build a 4+ family unit, potentially subject to a public hearing. And this adds a lot of area in these metros back onto our map. Anyway, I will leave the rest of these filters for you to explore on your own. If you would like to reference a tutorial of how to use this tool, then you can find one on our YouTube channel, or you can click this info button on the right-hand side of the screen and find one on our website. But with that, I will hand it off to Jumbo.
Yeah, thank you so much, Connor and Jeff. Hello, everyone. I'm Junbo Huang, a zoning analyst focusing on North Carolina's zoning codes as the NZ18. Now, I would like to introduce and compare the zoning statistics in the Raleigh metro area and the Durham metro area. Next slide, please. Yeah, this slide shows the general complexity of zoning regulations in both metro areas. As we can say, there are 30 jurisdictions in Raleigh metro area and 12 jurisdictions in Durham metro area. All jurisdictions here have zoning. And in jurisdictions of Raleigh metro area, zoning codes have 361 pages and 19 zoning districts on average, while in jurisdictions of Durham metro area, zoning codes have 400 pages and 32 zoning districts on average. So in general, the zoning codes in Durham metro area is slightly more complex. One thing I do want to mention is that zoning in some small jurisdictions were often pretty simple, such as Princeton in Johnston County and Goldston in Chatham County. They have only about, I remember, only about 100 and less than 10 zoning districts. But some big jurisdictions, they tend to have more complex regulations, such as Raleigh, Durham, and Cary. They all have over 600 zoning pages and over 40 zoning districts, and even they have a lot of sub-zoning districts. Please, next slide. Thank you. This slide shows the proportions of zoned land in both metro areas. The Raleigh metro area has a 90% zoned jurisdiction land. Of that amount of zoned land, 89% allows primarily residential use and 7% allows mixed residential uses. In contrast, the Durham metro area has a 75% zoned jurisdiction land, and of that 75% zoned land, 54% are primary residential uses and 42 allows mixed residential uses. So both Raleigh metro area and the Durham metro area have only 4% non-residential land. And I do want to point out that some industrial and commercial districts prohibits standalone housing units, but they may allow accessory dwelling units only, such as caretaker units and watchman quarters. According to our methodology, the NZ methodology, these districts that only allow ADUs are still categorized as non-residential. So these they would belong to the focus non-residential uses here. Next slide, please. This slide shows the residential uses in acres, including the primary residential and the mixed residential uses. So in Raleigh metro area, there are 1.17 million acres of land that are for primary or mixed residential uses. About 1.11 million acres, it's about 96% of all the residential lands. They allow single-family housing. In Durham metro area, there are about 1.05 million acres of residential lands, and 1.02 million acres allow single-family housing. So it is quite clear that single-family homes are allowed in almost every residential districts here. Yeah, next slide, please. So this slide shows this slide further breaks down the non-residential land uses in both metro areas. These non-residential land uses are often for commercial or industrial purpose, and only very small percentages are dedicated to civic uses or open spaces. Next slide. These two graphics shows the breakdown of single-family housing, duplexes, and multifamily housing. To clarify that, we measure the number of units allowed per lot. So when we say one family, it indicates only 1 unit per lot. And when we say two family, it indicates at most 2 units per lot, so on and so forth. As we mentioned, we can see here again, almost all residential lands in both metro areas would permit single-family housing by right. And in Raleigh metro area, 24% land permits 24% residential land permits multifamily homes by right, while in Durham metro area, it seems to have higher percentage on, sorry, yeah, this slide still. While in Durham metro area, it seems to have higher percentage for multifamily housing, but we can say most of this land, they need public hearing for multifamily homes. And I feel this may create a kind of uncertainties or extra cost for multifamily housing development. I feel this can be an interesting question for the multifamily housing development in Durham metro area. Yeah, this chart shows the percentage of residential land by jurisdiction upon which the 4 or more family homes are permitted. The range varies widely in both metro areas, and nearly all residential land in the jurisdictions of Raleigh and unincorporated Wake County allow multifamily housing. But many small jurisdictions in Raleigh metro area, they have very few residential land allowing multifamily. So let's say Durham metro area, the jurisdictions of Carryboro and Hillsboro have about 75% residential land, allowing 4 or more family homes. And the jurisdictions of Durham and Chapel Hill have about only 25%. All other unincorporated counties in Durham metro area do not allow multifamily housing at all. Next slide, please. We also categorize accessory dwelling units separate. We found that in Raleigh metro area, 63% land that allows single-family housing would permit ADUs, while in Durham metro area, almost all single-family lots would permit ADUs. So this data is important because ADUs can add some gentle density and promote housing affordability in single-family zoning areas. Next slide, please. We also collect the data on minimum lot sizes for various housing development. So this slide shows the minimum lot size requirements for one family housing. As we can say in Raleigh metro area, 60% of single-family housing lots require a minimum lot size of 2 acres or more. Only 3% do not have minimum lot size requirements. I often find these 3% residential land that do not require minimum lot size are attached to the single-family housing lots. So in Durham metro area, 26% of one family housing lots require more than 2 acres. And 48% require minimum lot size from 0.5 to 1 acre. Reducing the minimum lot size requirements can be a great reform for cutting down housing costs and increasing affordability. Actually, when I reviewed these zoning regulations in these 2 metro areas, I found their minimum lot size may change according to the availability of public sewer and water systems. So I feel there is a connection between the zoning regulations and the public health concerns. So next slide, please. To information on land uses and requirements. We also collect the data on affordability policies, age restrictions, mobile home parks, and parking spaces. All these provisions allow jurisdictions to incentivize or disincentivize some types of development. In this slide, we can say Durham requires parking spaces for its 99% residential land, and only 1% residential land allow mobile home parks, while in Raleigh metro area, it allows more mobile homes and less parking requirements. Actually, in Raleigh metro area, I found many jurisdictions often set a specific mobile home residential zoning districts. And more interestingly, the zoning regulations in the jurisdiction of Raleigh, it doesn't have parking requirements for that's very interesting point for me. And all this information can be very helpful if our Mac users want to advocate pro-housing policies to encourage more housing development. Next slide, please. Yeah, as I explained and displayed in previous slides, we have prepared nice snapshots of our findings for Raleigh metro area and the Durham metro area. They are available on our official website, and the link is here as bottom left. Next slide, please. We also have finished many other metro areas, and they also have useful snapshots, and they are also available on our website. Yeah, so please interact with us, and you can use Atlas now, as Connor just showed us. Once you start exploring, please share what you discover. And you will find us on Twitter and Instagram, and we are also on LinkedIn, and we are very happy to receive your email at any time. So yeah, that's what I have today for Raleigh metro area and the Durham metro area. I also want to express our deep gratitude to Jennifer Miner and her team. Their work has been super helpful for us to analyze North Carolina's zoning regulations. So thank you so much, Jennifer. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Matthew Mitchell, and also this is Jennifer Miller with Code the Carolinas. Just want to say really appreciate to be part of this and really eager to download that snapshot immediately afterwards. It's really informative. So Code the Carolinas is a civic tech volunteer organization that's been contributing for almost 2 years now for work in collecting and preparing publicly available zoning data in both North and South Carolina, working with the National Zoning Atlas. It's been, a fantastic experience that we've been having meetings regularly on Monday evenings, accepting basically people with any degree of skill, although definitely have been appreciative and have drawn in some very experienced folks in our various Carolina communities with some experience in QGIS, and have learned a lot from the How to Build an Atlas guide, and have approached this in a level where we can best kind of support as laymen and learn working with the analysts, and kind of testing some of what is and is not available in this, and benefiting from the ability to kind of collect and analyze this. And so just wanted to say that this has been a fantastic experience, and we've appreciated this work, getting to learn more about our communities, and really connect, and looking forward to being able to advocate for and see this information used in our communities. So wanted to add that you can also join us at codethecarolinas.org, or our meetup to learn more about our kind of approach and connection to this project, and just really happy to be part of this.
Thank you, Matt. And now we're at the end of this session, so we're happy to take any questions you may have while you're thinking of those. I wanted to ask Connor or Jumbo, has there been anything that surprised you in your analysis of the Raleigh or Durham metro areas, or perhaps when comparing the two areas, which are often thought of as one, but are two separate metro areas defined by the census? Was there anything that particularly stood out to you in your analysis of this region?
Yeah, maybe I can go first. So yeah, this is a very interesting question for me, because when I was reviewing the zoning codes in these two metro areas, I often find as I displayed just now, the single family housing are allowed almost everywhere. A large proportion of our residential land, they permit the single family housing by right. But when I look at the multifamily housing, the only very small amount of residential land would permit it, or they need to require public hearing. So I guess it's really more difficult to get the multifamily housing get built. So I feel it may be necessary to really advocate for the multifamily housing and policies that can be enforced.
Thank you. Any thoughts from you, Connor?
Yeah, I again, from the walkthrough in the atlas and what Jumbo shared, was surprised to see four plus unit buildings allowed as of right in so much of unincorporated weight counting. I found that quite significant because I don't always see that in unincorporated portions. I also had more of a general note about North Carolina, which I think at least I've become accustomed to working in it. It was interesting to incorporate conditional zoning into the NZA methodology, as this is something somewhat unique to North Carolina that we don't see in many other states. There's also been like a recent legislative change which prompted some overhauls of conditional zoning in some jurisdictions. So it presented some unique situations in our work where we had to maybe reconcile some discrepancies or figure out how to best represent this data. So that was quite an interesting variable when working in North Carolina.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of our users will come across those conditional zoning districts and overlays as they browse the map after today's session. It looks like we've reached the end of our time, and I'm not seeing any questions from the audience at this moment. So I'll end it there, but if you do come across any questions, please feel free to email us at info@zoningatlas.org, and we'll be sure to get back with you. Thank you all for joining us today.